lectures. My name is Davido Paradzai, and in this video lecture, we are going to cover corporate governance, that is to finish up on King 4. Make sure you're watching this video after watching part 1 on corporate governance. So, part 4 of the King 4 code is a summary of the code which is just outlined in a page. It has headings to say leadership by the governing body, the principles, practices, governance outcomes that the King Code achieves to attain. So make sure you go and read King 4 on a page, which is just a summary, but you still need to go and read on the detail that is outlined in part 5. So part 5 of the code is now detailed. I encourage you to read through the section and make sure that you highlight and flag the code on principles that are examinable so that you will not have problems navigating in the test or exam. Principle 5.1 relates to leadership, ethics, and corporate citizenship, whereby, number 1, the governing body should lead ethically and effectively. We are saying the board of directors are at the top. They are controlling, they are managing an entity on behalf of the shareholders, on behalf of the owners. Therefore, they need to set a tone that is they lead ethically and effectively to ensure the smooth running of an organization. Principle 2 relates to the governing body should govern ethics of the organization in a way that supports the establishment of an ethical culture. It is the governing body, the board of directors, that sets the ethical culture of a particular organization. So you will find beneath principle 2 are recommended practices that you should know and be able to apply when given a scenario in a test or exam. Principle 3, the governing body should ensure that the organization is and is seen to be a responsible corporate citizen. How is the organization operating within the society? How are they seen by the public? How are they seen by all the stakeholders? Recommended practices will be outlined under Principle 3. 5.2 relates to strategy, performance, and reporting. Principle 4, the governing body should appreciate that the organization's core purpose, its risks and opportunities, strategy, business model, performance, and sustainable development are all inseparable elements of the value creation process. We are starting at the top, and you will find the recommended practices in that regard. Principle 5, the governing body should ensure that it reports issues by the organization that enable stakeholders to make informed assessments on the organization's performance and its short, medium, and long-term prospects. Therefore, there have to be transparency in the reports that they issue, in all the information that they provide to the public. Principle 6 relates to the governing body should serve as the focal point and custodian of corporate governance in the organization. Very important, because they are at the top of the organization and they set the tone in which the organization will operate. So, King 4 has principles that are outlined, and below those principles are recommended practices which you should know for answering in a test or exam set up. Very theoretical, but you will have to be able to apply information in the test or exam. So we are going to go through a practice question. As I read it out, I want you to find out what could be the issue 2018 financial year, a hacker accessed commercial colleges' servers and managed to download personal details of students enrolled for short courses. Some of the students whose data was accessed instituted a legal claim against the college, claiming damages amounting to $450,000. The courts ruled in favor of the students due to negligence on the side of Amazing Web Services, a company that provides server hosting services to commercial college. Ronald, a director at the college, mentioned that he had a contact at the Ministry of Justice who could assist the college to appeal the case if an off-the-record donation of $100,000 was made to his contact's account. The board agreed that this was a great risk, but that it was worth taking under these disparate circumstances and ensuring that the image of the college is not tainted by the court judgment. All directors supported the move. Ronald indicated that the $100,000 should not be recorded in the accounting records since they are appealing the judgment and therefore there is basis for not recording the transaction. Then the required read. Discuss any ethical issues to commercial college arising from the suggestion made by Ronald to have the legal action dismissed. Did you hear who Ronald is? He's a director. He's at the top. They are controlling, they are managing the company, they are directing the company. And now he's suggesting that commercial college should pay a bribe to his contact so that the case is dismissed. What did the other board of directors say? They agreed with the move. They say, given the situation, it's fine that we pay the $100,000. It is not disclosed in the financial statement since they are going to appeal the case. These people are managing the entity and they are making such a decision. What does Scheme 4 say? From Principle 1, we had that the governing body should lead ethically and effectively. If already they are thinking of paying a bribe, are they leading ethically? Is this going to be effective for the entity? Principle 2 that we just mentioned goes on to say the governing body should govern ethics for the organization in a way that supports the establishment of an ethical culture. The tone that they are setting at the top, will this encourage an ethical culture for commercial college? The governing body, Ronald and his colleagues, are supposed to ensure that the organization is and is also seen by the public to be a responsible corporate citizen. If they are busy paying bribes, will they be seen as a responsible corporate citizen? Will they attain a corporate citizen status for themselves? No. That is non-compliance with the requirements of King 4. The board of directors are supposed to possess fundamental principles, that is, competence, integrity, responsibility, fairness, accountability. Are they being fair to the organization if they are paying $100,000 as a bribe and they do not want it to be recorded? Are they being accountable? No, that is non-compliance with King 4 requirements. So when you read through a test or exam scenario, you should be able to tell, where is this information leading me to? This is a bribe. It should not be recorded. If it is not recorded, the reports, the financial statements that they are going to issue to the public, are they transparent? No, because they left out some information that they paid a bribe to a contact of one of the directors so that the legal claim that was against them could be dismissed. They should be the custodian of corporate governance. They should set the tone for the organization. Instead, they are not, and therefore non-compliance with King 4. So this is just an example of what can come in the test or exam. You now know your King 4 principles and recommended practices. You come across a scenario and you should be able to answer going back to the recommended practices of King 4. You go with the hard copy of your King 4 to the test or exam. You have flagged, you have highlighted the code, and you'll be able to answer appropriately. Moving on, 5.3 relates to governing structures and delegation, a highly examinable area. Make sure you have read and you've understood these recommended practices. The governing body should comprise the appropriate balance of knowledge, skills, experience, diversity, and independence for it to discharge its governance role and responsibilities effectively and objectively. They need to have experience, they need to be diversity within the board, independence, so that when they make decisions, they are best suited for the organization, they are best suited for the shareholders. So make sure you go and read and understand all the principles that have been recommended with regards to governing structures and delegation. Which roles of the governing body can they delegate? Which roles of the governing body can they give to management, can they give to subcommittees? So principle 8 says, the governing body should ensure that its arrangements for delegation within its own structures promote independent judgment and assist with balance of power and the effective discharge of its duties. If they set up other committees from the board, what are the responsibilities of those committees? The audit committee, the risk committee, the remuneration committee, the nominations committee. Who should be in those boards? Who should be the chairman of the audit committee? What qualities can you say this person is an independent non-executive director? This is all outlined in King 4, and you should understand so that you'll be able to answer a test or exam scenario. Principle 9. The governing body should ensure that the evaluation of its own performance and that of its committees, its chair, and its individual members support continued improvement in its performance and effectiveness. There is need to evaluate how the members of the governing body have been operating throughout the year. What does King 4 recommend? Make sure you go and highlight how often are these evaluations supposed to be taken. Go and know exactly what is required by King 4 and you answer correctly. Principle 10, the governing body should ensure that the appointment of and delegation to management contributes to role clarity and the effective exercise of authority and responsibilities. Now, the board of directors have decided to give some of their responsibilities to management, to the subcommittees. Are the roles known? Is it clear what they have delegated? Go and have an understanding of how the delegation is done and what duties can be delegated. Risk governance. The governing body should govern risk in a way that supports the organization in setting and achieving its strategic objectives. Very important, highly examinable. What are the recommended practices with regards to risk? How often should risk be identified? Should they have a risk register? Is the risk of a particular entity documented? This is all stipulated in King 4 under Principle 11. Almost all organizations worldwide have embraced technology. Therefore, the governing body, the board of directors, should govern technology and information in a way that supports the organization setting and achieving its strategic objectives. Very important. How best can they align their technology and information towards achieving their strategy? It comes from the board and their recommended practices within King 4 that they should follow so that they achieve strategic objectives. Principle 18. The governing body should govern compliance with applicable laws and adopt non-binding rules, codes, and standards in a way that supports the organization being ethical and a good corporate citizen. As entities operate, they are faced with laws and regulations that they have to comply with. There are regulators, different industries, who governs that industry, what laws do they have to comply with for them to get a license, what laws and regulations are they supposed to comply with even when they start operating. Therefore, the governing body should govern that compliance with laws and regulations. What will happen in the event of non-compliance with laws and regulations? They might attract huge fines for their organization. Therefore, if the board of directors is at the top and ensure compliance with laws and regulations, they will avoid unnecessary fines and unnecessary evils for the organization. Principle 14. The governing body should ensure that the organization remunerates fairly, responsibly, and transparently so as to promote the achievement of strategic objectives and positive outcomes in the short, medium, and long term. Very important. You will find entities that have collapsed, entities that have failed. There have been scandals, fat packages for directors, huge packages for those in management, and that has resulted in the entity collapsing. What then does King 4 say with regards to remuneration? Should an entity have a remuneration policy, a remuneration report? How is the report supposed to be implemented? How are the policies supposed to be implemented? This is all outlined in Principle 14 under the recommended practices. So I encourage you that you go and read through and understand how remuneration is supposed to be given, what should be disclosed with regards to remuneration. That way you'll be able to answer any question on remuneration and responsibility surrounding the remuneration packages for an entity. Principle 15. The governing body should ensure that assurance services and functions enable an effective control environment and that these support the integrity of information for internal decision making and for the organization's external reports. So, who should be there to provide assurance on the entity? Is it the external auditors? Is it the internal audit function? How should it comprise? Who should be audited by external auditors? All of this starts from the governing board, who should ensure that assurance services and functions enable an effective control environment for their entity. So, also important that you understand the recommended practices. Principle 16. In the executing of its governance role and responsibilities, the governing body should adopt a stakeholder-inclusive approach that balances the needs, interests, and expectations of material stakeholders in the best interest of the organization over time. They are not operating in a void environment. They are operating where they are people, they have to maintain stakeholder relationships. So at the top, they have to consider what are they doing to the stakeholders, how are they giving back to society so that they operate well in the environment. Principle 17, the governing body of an institutional investor organization should ensure that responsible investment is practiced by the organization to promote the good governance and the creation of value for the companies in which it invests. Equally important, which companies are you investing in and what is their corporate governance style like, so that you do not lose on any value or you do not lose the value of shareholders. So principle 17 is the last principle with recommended practices that I also encourage you to go and have an understanding. So what has often been asked of students in tests or exams, the required may read: identify and discuss regards the governance structures at DHL with reference to the requirements of King 4 Code on Corporate Governance. Another requirement may say, discuss any concerns you have with reference to the information provided in the extract of the governance report. You should discuss this with reference to the requirements of King 4. What did the examiner expect of the students? Identification and discussion of concerns with regards to the governance structures at DHL as indicated in the scenario with reference to the requirements in King 4 Code on Corporate Governance. What is not right? What is not sitting well with regards to corporate governance, with regards to the requirements of King 4? What is the concern within the information that you have been given? You will only be able to answer that if you are well versed with your King 4 and you know where to turn to when this comes in the test or exam. So when you see a trigger, when you see a concern, what does King 4 say? That way you have identified a concern and you are able to say what the King 4 Code says with regards to that concern, and you will earn your 4 marks. So what happened? Some students wasted time quoting King 4 without clearly stating the concerns. From the scenario, you have noted that the chairman of the board is the CEO of the entity. What is wrong with that? What does King 4 say? It is only if you know your King 4 that you will be able to tell that the chairman of the board should be an independent, non-executive director. It is only if you know your King 4 that you'll be able to say the CEO should not assume responsibility as CEO and chairman of the board. They should be appointed a lead independent non-executive director in the event that the position of chairman of the board is conflicted. So go and know the requirements, the recommended practices by King 4, and you'll be able to answer these required without quoting what King 4 says. Avoid just dumping what King 4 says, but apply with what you have been given. You have been given a scenario to say all members of the audit committee are executive directors. What is the concern? What is the issue? All members of the audit committee should be independent, not executive directors. That is only if you know your King 4. Some students stated that the chair should not be a member of the remuneration committee. Chairman of the board should not be a member of the remuneration committee. Go and read your King 4. Familiarize with members of the board, who can be members of the board, who can be members of the audit committee, remuneration committee, risk committee, nominations committee. That way, if given in a scenario any concerns or any gaps within these committees, you'll be able to answer accordingly. Some students stated that board evaluation should be done annually instead of every 2 years. What does King 4 say with regards to board evaluation? Make sure you are clear on King 4 as a stand-alone. We will also cover the National Code of Corporate Governance in Zimbabwe. Be clear on the different codes and what they say. So read through the King 4, understand, read through the National Code of Corporate Governance in Zimbabwe so that you do not confuse the principles. This brings us to the end of the video lecture on corporate governance King 4. Thank you so much. We will cover the last part on corporate governance in part 3 of the video lecture, which you should also go through so that you do not miss out on any marks in the event that the King 4 Code or the National Code of Corporate Governance in Zimbabwe is examined. Thank you.